This podcast contains factual information only. It is intended for professional financial advisors and does not contain any personal financial advice. You should not make any investment, insurance, or financial decisions based on the content of this podcast.
Financial advisors help Australians live better lives. And we're great at it. But what about us? For us to thrive in the coming years, I'm here to ask a very big question. How can we live better, run better businesses, and help more clients along the way? My name is Jessica Brady, and I would love for you to join me as I listen and learn from experts who answer these very big questions. I am lucky enough to record most of my podcasts on Gadigal land.
Futurity Investment Group is Australia's leading provider of education bonds and has over 45 years of expertise in tax and investments. The tax-effective trust-like structure of an education bond is a solution for all generations and provides unparalleled flexibility and access to deliver on client goals, ranging from paying for education costs to family wealth transfers.
This week's conversation is with Jo Brassett. Jo is the Director of Insurance Advisory Services. Not only does she run the team, she's the sole advisor within her business, and she is a solo parent of a small child. So I wanted to know, has she got any balance? And surprisingly, the answer was yes. So then I was very keen to find out practically, how has she been able to set up her business and her personal life for success? Enjoy. Hello, Jo. Welcome.
Hi, Jess. How are you?
Good. I am very excited by this chat. As I said to you when we were organising this, I'm using this as an opportunity to reconnect with people that I used to know a million years ago, and also find out what is going on in your business and your life. And you've had so many changes. And I actually think, from the little that I do know so far, you're pioneering what we all want as the dream. So no pressure, but today I'd love to sort of learn more about what you do, how you've got there, and what it's enabled from a life perspective. Because it's great to have a lovely business, it's great to have happy clients, but ultimately, if you're not looking after yourself and having a great life along the way, we probably need to ask ourselves, why? So.
Exactly, right?
Exactly. I'm very excited. Tell me, Jo, for the people that don't know you, what is your story and your background?
Okay, so how far do you want to go?
We can go where, you don't have to tell us about, the birth or anything, you can start from wherever you like. But, people are often interested in, how did you get to where you are, and what are the big things that have influenced sort of the decisions that you've made along the way?
Okay, so I never knew what I wanted to do when I left school. So I just I was always a bit arty and kind of did a bit of graphic design and visual merchandising and show card and ticket writing, and I did all these kind of things. And then my parents were always, you should do some office management, course, and make sure that you kind of keep your skills up. And so I did that. They were always running a financial planning, which it was mainly insurance, both on the general and on the life side. So they have always run this business ever since I was a kid. But I never grew up going, oh, yeah, I want to join the business. So I kind of went off and did my own thing and kind of dabbled in different areas, but mainly all still around like marketing and advertising and being a PA and all those kind of things. And then I went overseas for 6.5 years and worked in an investment bank and travelled and did a lot of holidaying and finding myself and, figuring out kind of what I like to do, what I'm good at, all those things. So I never went to uni, but I did a lot of courses. I've got a high learner, so I'm always learning things and taking on stuff. And so I did all that, and then my sister was having a baby, so I came back here to Australia and then worked in an investment bank over here, which I didn't really enjoy, and then said to Mum and Dad, I think I need to join the business. Like, you need to show me what you do. It sounds really good. I think I'm kind of ready to join up. So I did that in 2008 and didn't really have any kind of ideas about what I wanted to kind of do within the business, but worked my way up from, being a CSO and understanding how all that worked, and then working with Dad and just kind of learning the traps really, and then doing all the study at the same time. And so, so I started quite, I suppose, late, and I didn't really kind of have any of those qualifications under my belt, but I did all of that. And then eventually became an advisor and just took over from my parents, I think it was about 3 years ago now, and purchased the business. And now I'm paying them off over time for the business. But and so I have now I run a general and a life plus financial planning practice. And we're based in North Sydney, as well as working from home. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
It's an interesting one because obviously there are a number of people who are in generational financial planning businesses, but I think the ones that I know, certainly it has always been their interest or aspiration to immediately step into the business when they were old enough and then start from there. So it's interesting that you went and had this whole other life really and this whole other experience, and no doubt that's helped you when you came back and thought, what will I do in this business differently?
Yeah, exactly. And I think because I was a little bit older by that point, it did probably make a little bit more of a difference because I had that kind of experience. I'd been out, I'd figured out I'd done all my traveling, or not finished, but, I did a lot of traveling and probably had my kind of university years overseas. So I kind of got that out of my system. And then by the time I came back, I just kind of the skill sets that I incorporated over the time and what I had naturally just kind of fit quite nicely. So it was good.
And what does the business look like now in terms of staff and, the types of people that you help, et cetera?
Yeah. So we have 5 people in Sydney. So there's myself and a CSO, and then I also have a practice manager, and we also have 2 general staff members, so an account manager and an account executive. And then we have 6 staff in the Philippines. So I have 3 support staff for the life side of the business and 3 support staff for the general side of the business.
Okay. And as someone who also has a team offshore, I'm fascinated to hear, how has that helped your business and what challenges have you found from having that team offshore?
Okay, so because I did purchase the business from my parents, I'm still paying them off, right? So when they were kind of moving out of the business, I was like, well, how am I going to continue to afford to pay for people who aren't actually going to be working in the business? So I had to figure out a way of being able to have staff but not have the overheads and the costs around all of that. So it was definitely in my mind when Dad was still working with me, but we did try another company and it just didn't really work out. So this was our second company. We're using 5 Elk, and that was our second company that we did use. And I think I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about it. I was like, I just need to start this again and see if I can kind of get this going. We started with 1 on the life side, and then we just built up from there. So I believe that the key thing is to have great systems and have somebody who can really manage that person like they are in Sydney. So, Leah has been with me for like 12 years, and so she knows how I work and we work really well together. And so getting her to really manage this person bit by bit, and we've just grown kind of organically. So it hasn't been like that's just put in 3 people straight away. It's been virtually 1 a year kind of on either side. And on the general side, they didn't want to put in anybody. They were like, no, that's not how we work. That's not going to work for us. And I said, look, if all they did was just do your filing, wouldn't that be helpful? And so they were like, well, yeah. I went, okay, so let's just start with that. So we just started with some things, and then as they've progressed, they've just been able to hand over more and more and more, and to the point now where we've got, 3 on each side. I mean, that's definitely taken down the costs that I had, and the overheads and the super and the workers' comp, all of those things that you need to, and the space. In Sydney, we've downgraded from where we were to a much smaller space. And COVID actually helped with that. We were already in place with 5 Elk, and then they were like, well, we can answer your phones, because we had to work from home. So I was like, well, how are we going to do that? How's that going to work for us? So they kind of said, well, we can step in and answer your phones when you're not there. So that took away the reception element, which also helped the staff. Like, there's so many different bits and pieces that they do help with. Anything that we can delegate that is, more administration based, that's what we do now. So we use those skill sets.
And if someone was thinking about using that sort of model or system for the very first time, what knowledge and pearls of wisdom would you impart on them to help them on their journey?
Let's have a think about that. What I think, it's important to have the right company to help you to implement all of this. So really the Daniels and the Danielle at 5 Elk, they work really well as a team, and they give us a real lot of support in when we bring on new staff members, when we're interviewing. They actually do a lot of the front end training as well. So they already put them through like Iris and Advisor Logic, and they have people over there who train for you. So that takes a lot of the pressure off of that. They put them through a load of courses. We pay for them to do more courses if we can. So the more information that they can get, the better. We also ask them to, and it's unusual the way that we do things, I think, because Danielle's told me. Usually they just give them, you just give your staff members something that they do, and they generally just do the same thing every day. But we give them everything. So, I'm always asking them to think and, think ahead of me. We talk on Teams all the time. So, it's like they're in the office, and we really work with a strengths-based kind of culture. So whatever they're really good at, then we really try to bring that on board so that, we can get the best out of people. But also crossing over in case, somebody is off going to have a baby, and then you've got somebody else who needs to step in. You don't want to ever be in a situation where you haven't got support.
Yeah. It is interesting because we were told that we were giving our team too broad a role and to actually narrow it down so that they are doing sort of the same or similar thing, and that repetition was important. But it sounds like actually, if you've got the systems in place, which I'm sure you do because I know that you're an organized human, and you sort of empower them to go and learn more and have the space, I guess, to go and investigate before they come and see you, they actually can do a breadth of different things for you over time.
Yeah, look, I think that also comes in time. It also comes with a lot of feedback and delegation and checking and, all of those kind of things that you always need to do with any staff member. I'm always one, when I'm training, I give the information on why I'm doing what I'm doing with any staff member. So the reason I'm doing this is because A, B, and C, so that they get a bit more of a picture on kind of where they fit within the project or the task. So you are right, though. I mean, I am highly organised and very consistent, and so we do the same thing all the time, and they do have processes and procedures to follow at all stages, but it can't just be a robot. You can't just have somebody who just follows the process of the bouncing ball, because it just it's not real life. And so for me to be able to give them the opportunity to draft an email first, understand why I've done it, and how I've pitched it and why I've pitched it, then even when they're doing that the next time, they understand why, and then they try to put together the email for me, and then I then check it and go, okay, it needs tweaking. And then by the end of it, then that's a process, because they've kind of figured out that that's a process, or they know by the amount of times I'm asking the same questions, Joe's going to want to know this, so I will just go back and update her. So I'm really a big one on making sure that they communicate when they've done something as well, so that I know it's out of my head. It's out of my head and into your head, and that you're confirming back that it's been completed. So, you know, there's a lot of systems around that as well, and communication. Communication is really key.
And you use Teams predominantly to do that?
Teams, yeah, we use Teams. We have Advisor Logic, so we have tasks, and we have processes and procedures for all of the renewals that we send out, the Calendly invitations, you know, calling up clients, the SMSs, like everything. It's very highly organized to a point where, you know, they just follow the procedures, and then if it diverts from that, then they know that they either have to let me know, or then they try to think about it and kind of come up with a solution and then come and tell me, and then we work on it together.
And this is interesting because you have a big team for one advisor.
Yeah.
Right? Like you are the sole, on the life and the financial advice piece,
yeah,
you are the sole advisor. And I guess you've built a big team so that you can get everything done that needs to be done in a profitable way that doesn't chew up all your time. Has that been sort of why you've built the team to be the way it is?
Yeah, because I do have a lot of energy. One of my top strengths is, achiever. So I like to achieve a lot, and I have, we use Notion, and we use tasks in Notion. Like I've got everything kind of already organized. So I do a lot within a day. And so if I feel that, and I do generate quite a lot. So when I took over the business from mum and dad, like we had a lot of clients already over the last 45 years. So then I took over and so then we don't lose a lot of clients. So I'm continually building, but at the same time, I'm making sure that I'm servicing the ones that we've got and then looking after the new ones that are coming in. So it has to be more of that. And a lot of that is around the administration. I mean, looking after clients and making sure they've got all the information and being communicative and sending out newsletters and all those kind of things. It makes the clients feel like they're the only client, but actually there's a whole team around to make sure that they feel like that. So, it's important that, I don't want to ever feel like somebody is not feeling like they're getting their money's worth. So I suppose it does need a big support team to ensure that that happens. And then if I feel like we are at that tipping point, which we were last year, where the staff over there were kind of making a few more mistakes, they weren't getting stuff done, I'm like, I think we're at that tipping point where we need to bring in another staff member because we are growing, and I feel like we need to bring in somebody else. And so I'm always thinking ahead to the next stage and bringing on new staff members as I feel like is necessary. And now we're at a situation where everybody is really humming really well. Like they're thinking ahead of me and they're not making as many mistakes and it's all looking good and we're on top of things. And, we can do maybe extra little projects to check things because we've got more time and more staff now. So, yeah.
Oh, that sounds like a nice place to be in. Very exciting. But you're right. You are the face of the business and you are the support from a client interaction perspective. But to effectively do that, you need to have so much infrastructure, whether it's systems and tech and people and all of them sort of helping you have that time to be able to keep great relationships and bring on new ones. And it's interesting because I don't know very many advisors that have a team of your size for one advisor. And I think that it proves that this type of business model can work. Whereas what I've seen happen a lot in the past is people bring on more advisors and they normally have, one advisor and maybe one paraplanner or one CSO. Actually, you've gone down quite a different route. It does leave you there's risk, which we can't sort of ignore, so we should chat through that. But I think that business model is unusual and yet seems to be highly successful in your world.
Yeah, it is unusual and there is risk for sure. And I feel like probably in maybe the next financial year, I'll need to make a decision on whether I want to bring in an advisor, another advisor, or whether I want to bring in another CSO. So I don't know. I mean, the whole thing about when you bring in another advisor is making sure that everybody is doing things the right way. You know, I'm checking my own compliance. I've got a compliance lady who checks my compliance. You know, all of that I know because I'm the one providing the advice. But once you start handing that out to others, you just need to make sure you've got checks on that. And I still don't feel like I am completely set up in a way that I would feel comfortable bringing in another advisor just yet. I am setting that up. I've got a Astute wheel that I've bought on, and I'm doing more kind of templated things along that path. So I think that perhaps once I've done that and I feel like I'm at that point, I would bring in another advisor and get them to work with me. But then you've got to find the right one. You know, it's like, it's a challenge to try and partner up with somebody, works the same way and thinks the same way that you do.
Yeah, from a pool that is sadly shrinking, or you go down a route where you bring in someone that is completely new to do the professional year and that has a whole gamut of other considerations and opportunities, shall we say.
Exactly, right? So, and it's not easy to find staff on the general side or on the life side. So, you know, and if you do, then it's going to cost you a lot. So I'm probably thinking a little bit more outside of the box to see if I can make it work in a different way, because I'm not sure I have the funds at the moment to be able to warrant bringing in somebody of that kind of caliber.
It's a constant dilemma that I know many advisors or business owners are grappling with. Since you've been starting this conversation, you've been talking about a lot of tech throughout this conversation. So let's just do a bit of a recap in terms of what tech you're using for what, if that's okay. So it sounds like your financial planning software is Advisor Logic.
It's become, yes. So we've got the CRM, which is Advisor Logic. And then we have Calendly, which I send out to all my clients to book in. So clients, BDMs, anybody who wants to book in with me goes in the Calendly, and that's all color-coded. So it's pretty full on.
Beautiful.
If anybody saw my diary, they'd probably like have a bit of a meltdown. But anyway, it makes me feel like it's my happy place. And then I have Feedsy, which is a newsletter that goes out that I use, and I outsource my articles. I have a copywriter and a marketing lady. So each month we do an article, and then that gets put on top of the Feedsy newsletter, and the Feedsy newsletter goes out each month, and that's to the life and the financial planning clients. We actually also have a general business insurance newsletter that goes out, and that's facilitated by CGU. That goes out once a month, and then we have an investment one for all the investment clients, just to give them a bit of an investment update. But all of that is facilitated through Feedsy. What else do we have? We have Iris. I do a little bit of Iris, which I use.
You mentioned Notion before. What's Notion?
Notion is it's a free package that you can put. It's a bit like it's a sales, because you know when you have projects and when you have tasks for clients in Advisor Logic, it's all about like the clients and what they're doing. But we also have a company that we run, and there's a lot of meetings and budgets and targets and, you know, sales and all of those kind of things that there's no real place for that information. So that all goes in Notion, and Notion is where we have, we note all of our quarterly meetings, we have weekly meetings, we do all of our updates in there. So the sales, I basically use that as my sales force type of environment where and anything that comes into my mind or anyone that books in, it just keeps notes in there, and then we translate that. We just copy that and put that into Advisor Logic if they become a client and, you know, they need a task or anything. But that's kind of how I keep track of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then you're using the Astute wheel in client meetings, is that right?
I'm only just starting to implement Astute wheel. So before, I'm kind of doing more things in Excel and more kind of manual, which I feel could be, as I'm getting busier and busier, I want to do it more online, and I want to be able to do it so that it's more in real time. So I've got a project with my CSO where we're implementing Astute wheel, and hopefully by the end of this financial year, we'll be ready to start using that and implement the processes moving forward on Astute wheel. And that should then ensure that kind of the strategies are all set up the same. You know, we can print off SOAs if we need to, you know. So I'm looking at that next step to make sure that our processes are clean, clear, real time, you know, it's quicker, those kind of things. So I'm not using Astute wheel yet, but we will be.
Okay. One thing that we haven't touched on, because we've been talking a lot about the business, is you're a human and have a life, and you, I think, have a really interesting mix. So unless there's anything really specific that we haven't asked about from the business perspective yet, which I'm happy to, I want to talk about how you run the team, run projects, see clients, you're a solo parent, and you work a 4-day week. Joe, how? Tell us, for the people who are idiots who can't work out how to do this and are working stupid hours, can we talk about do you have what we would consider to be balance?
I feel like I have balance. So when Miles was born, I obviously took time off to have him, and I ended up at some stage going back 3 days and then 4 days, and I never made it back for the 5th day because he was like still off. I wanted to spend time with him before he went to school. And Dad and I, when we were running the business, we always said, look, I'm not really into making massive profits. I want to have a lifestyle business where we can enjoy what we're doing and not be stressed out to the max just trying to, you know, earn all this money. So that's kind of still really stuck with me. And also I must say that my sister is my business coach, and she really does help me in ensuring that I'm looking at that, putting things in place, that I'm sticking to the plans, you know. So that really does help. And so I must say she's a really good one to kind of help me make sure that I am balanced. I outsource everything. So we're like the coaching, the cleaner, the personal training, you know, like the paraplanners, the copywriters, the parents pick up Miles. Like I outsource a lot of things so that I'm concentrating on the things that I really need to concentrate on. And I think that probably why I have that massive team is so that I don't get bogged down into doing all of the admin and doing all of the other bits and pieces and the compliance and, you know, all those things that so easily can distract you from what you're doing. I'm still across it and I'm still on top of it because we have our weekly meetings, but I'm not running those things. But on my mental health, the way that I keep that together is I work 2 days at home and I work 2 days in the office. COVID has really helped because before I was going out and I was seeing a lot of people and traveling, and, you know, that time to go out the way that my dad used to do it and the way that I was taught really changed to mainly being online now. So a lot of people just book online. They prefer it. And it just like means that I can see 4 or 5 people a day now rather than just maybe 1 or 2. And it does make a big difference to how many people you can service. But, you know, I do the gym on a Friday, and I do spin religiously and a spa and a sauna. And then I go and I still do all my work on my phone and I delegate. And I'm, you know, the staff are happy I'm not in on a Friday because I'm not generating more client work. But I'm already delegating stuff before I go on a Thursday and making sure that they're doing things, and teams are pinging left, right and centre, but I'm still, you know, doing my shopping or whatever I'm doing. I'm just managing more on a Friday rather than actually being physically in the office, or I don't have any client appointments on a Friday and I don't have any client appointments on a Monday. So Mondays are for like doing, internal meetings, BDMs, stuff like that, stuff that I need to like sort out for the week, and clients are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that's kind of how I coordinate the time so that I make sure that I get everything done.
Amazing. And we need to normalize outsourcing as much as humanly possible. And, your story is an interesting one because, you were pretty much the known succession plan when you decided you were going to have a baby. Was that really scary, the thought of stepping up and taking on a big responsibility like running the business, running the team, taking on the debt and having a child by yourself?
I never really thought about having a child by myself until Mum was like, well, we'll help you, so it's no problem. And I was thinking, well, do I want to meet a man or do I want to have a baby? I think I want to have a baby first, and then I'll meet the man later. So I never felt I was doing it myself. So there was always the family who were going to help me with that. So, and that's been the same all the way through. When I had Miles, Dad was still in the business. We still had him working in there. So it never really kind of occurred to me that I was taking it all on without him there at that point. So, and then when he was there, I was kind of running it anyway. So I don't know, I just kind of felt like it was just another piece of paper that I was just going to take over, but it was the same. It's going to be exactly the same as what I was doing, just I was going to own it and they were going to work for me or whatever. So, it was just, I didn't really think about it in that way. I suppose if I did, I might have freaked myself out a bit, but, I don't kind of think about things like that. I kind of I'm pretty half cup full type of person, and just, I know I can always get stuff done and I have a lot of energy. So, I didn't really kind of think about it in any other way.
I think that's very helpful, because I think you can get into this spiral where you overanalyze everything, and you, particularly in our world where we naturally try to plan things because that's literally our job, and it can mean that we find ourselves in a situation where we talk ourselves out of doing something, like taking on that bigger job or taking on that additional responsibility, stepping up, or starting a family or making a big life change, whether it be move somewhere or do something different, because we get into this sort of analysis spiral. So, yeah. And I guess the big difference for you, Jo, is because you've had the control now and the infrastructure, you've been able to do it in a way where, you have not only the Friday off, but you build in time throughout the year to make sure that you get breaks as well, right?
Yeah. So I make sure that, I really noticed with COVID when we weren't going away for holidays, I really noticed that I wasn't recuperating as well as I used to. There's a lot of brain energy, expended in running a business and doing strategies and thinking about clients all the time. You're constantly making sure that everybody else is okay. So, especially when, I've got Miles and I've got Mum and Dad who are aging. And so there's a lot of stuff going on all the time. So it really is important to take time out to make sure that you're getting your acupuncture, you're doing your holidays, you're doing your detoxes, you're doing all those things. And so for me, I really make sure that I take 6 weeks off at Christmas time. So I have the whole of January off. And, partway through December, like we generally work the last week. And then, throughout the year, I make sure that I have some time off in July and then some time off in August. I really build in those processes so that we made some months quite a bit smaller than others to ensure that I had some time to rest and recuperate. And the same with the staff. They're always like, there's no slow months, Jo. I'm like, we just do it in the slow months. And they're like, there's no slow months. I'm like, surely there's got to be a slow month sometime, but there's not. Yeah.
So, I say things like this. I'm like, when we're quiet, and then everyone giggles because it's just not a quiet thing. But I've really grappled with this, and I think this is something that I have done quite poorly, because I think we have normalized busy, and I think we have made rest seem wasteful, which is BS from all of the research that I am learning about, which is why I'm enjoying this podcast, because it's really nice to hear people who are doing it and living it and breathing it. And would you say that rest makes you come back as a better leader, as a better advisor? Like, apart from having a lovely time and enjoying sort of pina coladas or whatever it is that you're doing, but what does it actually bring to the business by having that time off?
Oh, look, I think even with the 4 days, being able to have that Friday where, I'm not thinking about client strategy or not thinking about the staff per se. I'm still managing, but I'm not like full on in it. It just gives me a 3-day weekend every weekend. And so that just revives me as it is, just being able to do that and then come back and, just manage, not be stressed. Like, I don't feel stressed. Like, I don't feel like I take on stress. I really do manage that quite well. And I feel that comes down to the staff as well. Like, they feel less stressed. When Dad was running things, it had to be busy. It had to be busy and you had to be stressed. Because if you weren't stressed and busy, you weren't doing a good job. You weren't making money and you weren't getting clients in, and it was all stressful because it wasn't stressful enough. And I just don't want to live like that.
And was that because that was like the old school way of doing things? Like, we just need to be more, better, more with less sort of mentality?
Yeah. And, just if you're not busy, and the word busy all the time, it's you're not doing a good job. Whereas being actually organized and in a way where everybody is doing what they're meant to do means that everybody is enjoying what they're doing. And it means that, can you hear my dishwasher? It's actually singing to me. It's finished.
You're outsourcing your washing up. That's brilliant. And it sings to you. This is get appliances that sing as well.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I just feel like you don't need to be that stressful busy to, be doing a good job. It just doesn't need to. I think that's an old way of thinking of things. And it does feel weird, though. When you first start to do it, you feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough. Like, I should be busier. Like, it feels weird.
Oh, did you have like guilt almost? Tell me about what that was like.
It was just this thing where I was sitting there and I was talking to Kath and I'm like, I feel like I should be doing something. Like, I feel like I should be busier. Like, when Dad was here, it was always like much busier. But the figures they were doing really well and I was still doing what I wanted to do and I was still able to take the day. And there was this realization that, oh, maybe I don't need to work that hard. Maybe it just needs to be smarter to be able to achieve what I want to achieve. And I still get peaks of that now. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Maybe I should go back. And then I think, well, I've got to do some study. So maybe I'll keep the Friday because then I could do some study. And, I still do have like little tweaks of that, but not enough to make me want to go back go back to the 5 days.
I think that's so interesting in terms of like having to learn how to be okay with not being stressed all the time or racing all the time, because it would be weird. It would be really weird to have to try to unlearn and give yourself the psychological safety to be like, no, actually, we're still doing well. We're just doing it differently. And we've got, presumably it's, we've got more infrastructure and we've got bigger teams and we've, I know you and I know that you're very organized. So I can imagine that, everything is, apart from the fact that we're human, but I would imagine quite a well-oiled machine over there. I think it's really aspirational, Jo. Like, there's so many of us who are hoping and wanting to get to that point. For people who aren't as naturally organized as you with your beautiful color coordinated calendars. So outsourcing's been crucial. What are the other sort of tips that you would give to people who want to transition to this style of lifestyle that you have?
Get a good coach. Kath has been amazing. This strengths-based coaching has been incredible. When Dad stepped out, he was my sounding board. And so, I had no one then to talk to about the running of the business and how that was going to be and the staff and all those kind of things and money. And, I think that when you're a solo business operator, you do need that person. Like, I have an accountant, but he doesn't step into provide me with the information that I need for me to be able to run the business and the staff and all those kind of things. So, I think having that, and as I said, I'm very consistent. So I made sure that we met on a weekly basis and that I gave myself tasks to do on that weekly basis. So that was highly important to start with. So I did that with Catherine right at the very beginning, just the two of us for a long time. And then when I felt like I was ready, I brought in my two leadership team people. And then we sit down now on a weekly basis and everybody has their own tasks and we update and we talk and, that keeps us, because we were all pinging emails to each other all the time. And so then it was like you're disturbing everybody who's working because you can't not get it out of your mind. So it's like, well, let's all bring it to a meeting and discuss it at a meeting. And then that's the moment where we discuss all things compliance or all things staff or all things, budgetary. Let's do it there. And that way we can leave the rest of the week to work on client stuff and, things that we need to work on. So it is really being able to put things into their little pockets to make sure that you're discussing things at certain times, clients Tuesday to Thursday, day off Friday, internal things on a Monday, BDMs. I only see them on a Monday. Great. Not when they want to come and see me. I'm like, this is the day that I can see you. Here's my calendar. You can book in when I'm free. So then they come and see me when I'm able to do it. Yeah. So I think it's just making sure that, you need to, I don't know how to teach anybody to be organized. I don't know how to impart that knowledge. And
it's not even the knowing, it's the doing. Knowing and doing are so different.
Right. Yeah. And, I think with Teresa on the general side, it's taken a lot for her to think about this in a different way as well. Like it's probably taken a good 2 years for me to get the team to think the same way or similar way than what the way that I do and how to get them to delegate. Like I've got great people who always want to do everything. And I'm like, that's fantastic, but we're never going to grow. We're never going to do anything if we're all doing it ourselves. If we keep it and we're not willing to share it or train or to get others to help us, you're going to be stuck in the same position. So, and I feel maybe a little bit of that is because we've outsourced, we've had a little bit more funds to be able to spend on marketing and other areas where I was probably trying to do it all myself before and it's just not feasible.
Or fun.
Not fun. Yeah. It's not fun. Not fun.
I don't know many people that have achieved it, and I mean it as in balance. I thought it was elusive, this sort of utopian destination that doesn't actually exist whilst you have small children. And so to be able to have a lifestyle where you're not missing these years that don't, come back. They're only little ones. And we were talking about, it's such a nice age when they're little and still think you're cool. Give it a few years and then they won't want to see you.
Exactly.
I think it's an enormous achievement and a huge congrats to you because, yeah, I am looking at you and have known you for a long time but have watched from the outside and wondered if it could be done, and you've helped me see that it can be done. Giant congrats. Anything else that we haven't talked about before I do some rapid fire questions that you think the XY community would want to learn about your journey or your business or anything really?
I suppose just with being able to kind of do it all, I think that's where really Calendly made like a massive difference. I was being dictated, I suppose, my times by when I was calling up clients and trying to get them in the diary. And so that whole process of being able to send out invitations and I still love like being out on a Friday, like walking around and having invitations just dropping into my diary. Like that's the best thing ever, right? So before it was always trying to cajole clients to come in and see me. And now it's like they're willing to kind of come in and do it themselves. And so you can block off time. So if Miles has got a cross-country run next Wednesday morning, I can cross that out of my diary and so then I make sure that I'm there. So it really is making sure that you're putting timings around your work life rather than the opposite way. And clients will always find another time. if they can't make that one. And if there's nothing in the diary, then they call me and then we make an exception to the rule. But obviously, like, you know, they will always find a different time to come in and sort something out if they really want to. So, yeah, and the support. I wouldn't be able to do any of it without my family, honestly. Like, mum and dad pick up Miles all the time. Like, they really do help me.
It takes a village, doesn't it?
It really does take a village.
And that's okay. And that is okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I am very impressed. I wish I'd have learnt that piece around the Calendly 5 years ago, because I had a similar thing, but I was, and I guess, you know, the traps of a new business, you know, I was doing my first meeting of the day at 7 a.m. I would offer meetings until 8 p.m. I worked 6 days for client meetings, and then I'd spend the seventh day trying to scramble and get groceries and complete whatever paperwork I needed to get done for the week. And it was awful. And it was so hard for me psychologically to put boundaries in place. And then when I did, no one cared. No one cared. Honestly, no one cared. Like, people were like, oh, I can't do 7 a.m. anymore. Fair. You know, you got to have a life. I was like, oh my gosh, how did it take me to get to the brink of my existence before I became okay? We've got to give ourselves permission to at least try this stuff. And then if it doesn't work, go from there. So,
well, that's the thing, right? I think you've got to at least try, and then if that doesn't work, you try something different, you know. But real growth comes from change and just trying something different. And it's scary, but sometimes it's great. You know, you never know what you're going to get at the end of it.
Totally, totally. Hey, I've loved our chat today. Can we do a couple of random questions? But before we get there, if people want to learn more about you or chat with you, how can people best connect?
I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm also got my email. It's a long one, jbrassett@insuranceadvisoryservice.com.au. I've also got my website. I'm all over the place. So you can always try and find me.
Wonderful. Okay, let's fire off my last couple of questions, and then I will let you get back to your very structured day. What is one thing that you do to look after your mental health?
One thing I do to look after my mental health, I take the Friday.
What is a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
HSC isn't everything. Learn, look at your strengths and figure out what you're good at, and then you'll find a job that will fit in with that.
So true. Do you have something that's quite big and exciting on your bucket list that you haven't ticked off yet?
Well, I was supposed to go to Croatia when COVID hit, so I would like to go back there at some point. I think that would be lovely.
Last question. Do you have a book for me to put on my list for my fake book club?
Did you say your fake book club?
I mean, it's a book club that I am part of, so I don't think that counts as a real one, but I like to hear some books.
Okay, so I've got Apples Never Fall by Leanne Moriarty.
You can't see, but she's actually got the cover of the book. Okay.
Yeah, I've got the book here.
Apples Never Fall.
So Apples Never Fall, and that was from my real book club that I'm in.
Excuse me, will not offend my fake book club, Apples Never Fall. Brilliant. Amazing. Jo, it's been so lovely to chat to you. Congratulations on both your business and personal success, and I wish you all the very best for this wonderful balanced life that you have into the future. Thank you for being part of today's chat.
Thank you. It's been great. It's been good to catch up.